welcome to today's video. We are going to be doing a little craft that's very simple to do and will save you a lot of money. So I'm the type of person that if I see decor items in the store, before I buy it, I want to see if I can make it myself. And something that I see a lot of people spend a ton of money on is prints for either your picture frames or just for your walls in general. And I love a good print. I think that it really can spice up your room, but I don't like spending lots of money for prints, especially ones that are just like canvas pictures that are printed out. So I wanted to show you how you can make basically any print at home for like no money at all. So all you're gonna need is a pencil, some markers, some paper, and a picture frame, which most of those things you probably have in your house. If you don't have a picture frame, you can of course shop at like Target and stuff like that, but I love the thrift store for finding my picture frames. So before we get into the actual prints, something that I want to talk about is just like words and quotes. A lot of people will frame quotes on their wall, which I love. I think it's so fun, but again, I don't want to pay for it. So something so simple you can do, I've done this for years, is literally just type it up on Word and print it out. So I have this big frame here. This I'm gonna put a new picture in, but I've had this for like a year, and it says escape the ordinary. And basically I just went onto Word and I typed the quote that I liked and I changed the font. Now Word doesn't always have the most amazing fonts, so you can also do this in something like PicMonkey or Canva. I really like PicMonkey, so I just like their fonts and I just created it and printed it out. And then you can just size it to your frame and there you go. So that is how that looks. It's really simple, and there's a lot of free printables online. You can find them on Pinterest, you can find them on Google. You can just kind of search whatever you want to find inspiration. You can make it yourself, but just some simple words are really easy and they have a nice little message. So now I want to show you guys how I find my prints online, how I print them out to transfer them and make them at home. So let's go. The first thing you're going to do is go to Pinterest and check out my board, and you can see all of the beautiful things that I've tagged. Now, if you don't want to go on Pinterest, you can also just search like a line drawing, or if you want flowers or whatever you want, you can just search it on Google. They even have little sections for you to pick what you want. Also, while you're shopping, you can just see what stores are selling. So I was on Shein actually, and I saw a whole bunch of prints. These are just words. This is really easy to make on Canva or PicMonkey. All of these, it's just like literally typography and playing with it. This is something you could do with paint. I could show you that in a different video if you guys want to see it. But literally, this is just words for $4. All of these are super simple to make yourself and just print them out. You can literally copy it verbatim if you want to do that. Now, I would just like to show you this line drawing of the back of a girl's head is $10 at Target, which I mean is not very expensive. None of these are very expensive, but it's $10 when you can just make it yourself. This one does come with a frame and is on a canvas material, so you do get that benefit, but realistically, just go to the thrift store, pick up a frame for a few bucks, and you'll have the same exact thing. Speaking of the same exact thing, you'll see in this video, we are making this exact print. When I chose this print, I didn't realize Urban Outfitters made it, but it's $60, guys, for a 13 by 19, so it's a little bit over a foot and a foot and a half. It's the same size basically as the one we're making. Ours is bigger than an 8 by 10, but that's $40. The little bit bigger, closer to what we're making, is $60, and we're making it for free today. So keep on watching if you want to learn how we're gonna make this. Now back to my Pinterest. Now if you go to pinterest.com/thepeachypineapple, you'll get to my page, click on boards and scroll down. I mean, I got a lot of good stuff, but for this purpose, go to the line drawing and you can see all of the ones that I fell in love with. Now, this is the one that I used in my bathroom. This is gonna have all of the ones that I'm using in today's video. I really liked that one too, but I didn't end up needing it. That's a really simple one if you don't think that you wanna get too detailed. This one is actually going next to my bed. That's the one I blew up and I'm making large. That one I really wanted to do, but I don't have a frame for it, but I'll do it at some point. Now they have a lot of women and body, that's kind of what spoke to me, but if you want something different, they totally have other options on the other sites I just explained. My board is really just women that I thought were sophisticated and sexy. Once you find the image you like, you're gonna click on it to enlarge it. You want to copy the biggest file that you can. Make sure it's in its biggest state before you copy it. Then you're gonna right click and copy it. Now, for whatever reason, my computer won't let me record my Word screen, but basically you're just pasting it into Word and resizing it until you think it will be about the right size to fit into your frame. This may take a few tries because when it's on the computer it looks a little bit different than when it's on paper, but basically just play around with the sizes and make sure you know which picture is going on which frame, because obviously that will play a big part into how big it needs to be printed. Okay, so that was super simple. It took me like 10 minutes to find the prints. Usually what I'll do is over time when I'm searching for decor items, I'll see something that I like, or while I'm scrolling on Pinterest, I'll see something I like and I'll just kind of keep it in mind. And then when I'm ready to change up my frames, I kind of already know what I'm looking for. So let me show you how we're gonna do this. So the first thing you want to do is print out your pieces. I like to print out multiple sizes because the sizing on the computer will look a little bit different than when it's actually on paper. Now it's a little hard to tell what will fit in the frame, so what I like to do is take the back off and then remove the glass. Put the glass over top your picture and you can see exactly what will fit. Now also remember, your picture will have a little bit of an edge in the frame, so just realize that whatever is covered in that little gap, that's how I know what picture will fit the best in the frame. And then once I have it to my liking, I make sure it's really straight and line it up to the edge and take a pencil and draw around, and that way I know exactly where to cut it. Now also don't forget to put it in the center, because if it's off-centered it will look a little funny. So not only does it need to be straight, but it needs to be in the middle. Now I like to use a paper cutter to get really straight lines, but you can just use scissors if you don't have a paper cutter. It really doesn't matter, you're not going to see the edges anyways. Before you do anything too much, you want to make sure that you like that picture in that frame. So I like to just kind of hold it up to make sure it looks good. Get a hard flat surface with no grooves to draw on, and get a nice piece of paper. I like to use like painting paper, not just printer paper, but printer paper totally works. You can't really tell a difference in the frame. And then you're gonna put your piece of art underneath it and trace it. Now, sometimes it can be a little hard to see what you're tracing, so what I like to do is just turn my flashlight on and then put it underneath, and then the light will shine through. They actually make devices that do this, and I used to have one as a kid, but I don't have one anymore. This works fine. The only downside of this is that you're now drawing on a unflat surface, so it makes it hard to have the lines perfectly straight, but realistically the whole point of tracing is just to give you the idea, because we're going to be going over this anyways afterwards. But this is one way to do it, and it totally works well and is pretty easy to do. Once you have your initial trace, it's good to pull the original picture back up just to see
the colors if you're going to add any color, or if you're just doing black and white, you could just use the printout next to you, but it's up to you. I like to print in black and white because, you know, save ink, but then I like to see how they color their pictures if I'm going to add some color. And basically I'm just using some markers, and I wanted kind of a watercolor effect and not so like in the line, so I'm basically just scribbling over the flowers, and then I'm going to go over it in black. I don't always love to do colors, but something that's really fun about doing the artwork and the prints yourself is that you get to totally customize it to you. So I really liked the original print, however the color of the flowers didn't really match my aesthetic, so now by getting to do it myself, I can pick the colors that match my room and just make it tailored to exactly what I want. And this works for all pictures, so if you want to make any changes at all, you can totally do that. That's the beauty of this. It's perfect for exactly what you want. Once I have all of my lines and colors done, I go in with an eraser and just erase any pencil marks just to make sure it's really clean. I like to do my trace as lightly as possible, but I don't want any marks left. And then I go back in and just thicken up any lines, make anything darker, fix any mistakes I may have made. Now do realize that these are handmade, so it's probably pretty impossible to make them absolutely perfect. But once you have it like it, you put your glass back over, you make sure it's centered, you draw it, and then you go in with your scissors or your paper cutter and cut it. Now remember, your drawing does not need to be in the center of the paper because you're cutting off all of the edges. So I usually like to put it in the corner to get as many cuts as I can. Now it may not always fit exactly the first time, so just keep cutting until you get it right, add your finishing touches, and throw it in the frame, and you are good to go. On to the next one. Make sure that when you're printing your images, you know what frame they're going into because that will change the size, obviously. This one's obviously much larger. Now this one is only a line drawing, there's no colors. I have a pack up from Amazon of just black markers of different thicknesses, but you can use literally a pen, that works too. Now this one came with a border, and I actually wanted to keep the picture in the border, but you don't have to, you could just use the entire frame. I tested out my pens to see which thickness I like the most. It's always better to start thinner and thicken up your lines later on, but you know, pen looks amazing if you don't want to spend the money to get extra ones. This, I'm basically doing the exact same thing, I'm just not going to do any markers, so you can watch me do this because I really enjoy watching time-lapsed artwork. Here you go. Now with line drawings, I like to do them a little bit different. I like to work in sections and try to do long strokes. It will make the picture just flow a little bit better and not look as choppy. Obviously it's not always possible, but if you try to work in long fluid motions, I think that the drawing turns out a little bit better. Also remember, the picture does not have to be the exact same, so as I said, you can make any modifications for your own liking. Also, sometimes there's just like little things that change a little bit. It's kind of inevitable, it's your own drawing, and sometimes it's for the better, so don't try to get it perfect, just try to make it what you want. With the flowers, I liked the idea of them, but I didn't need them the exact same. Okay, on to the next one. So this is a little bit of a different tactic. Basically, you're taking the print and you are just coloring with pencil along the lines. It doesn't have to be a solid picture. You're basically just scribbling over anywhere that there is a mark on the other side. Then you're gonna lay it over your main paper that you're going to be drawing on. I like to draw out the square beforehand so I can center it in a square. You can see through the printer paper to see where that square is to make sure it's centered before you start drawing. Once you have it where you like it, then you're just going to trace over on top of the picture, and it's going to imprint onto the paper underneath it and leave a mark. So it's basically the same thing as tracing it, but this is a little bit easier if you want to just draw on a flat surface. It'll make your lines a little bit more straight because you're drawing on a flat surface, like I said. After that, it's the same process that you already did. You're just tracing over that line, but this is a different way to get the picture onto your paper before you go over it, if you have different results using the different methods. Here's a little tip for continuous line drawings like this one. I really like to work in that line and start from where the artist started and finish where he finished. I think it comes across more realistic, like that's what you did as well, versus working from the middle out. I think it just doesn't flow the same way. Alright, I have one more way of getting your prints onto your paper that is just going to change it up a little bit. So basically, instead of printing, if you don't have a printer, this could work for you. Now, you don't need a laptop that folds in half, but basically, instead of printing it out, you're just using a kind of a combination of the first one where you're putting a light behind it and you're going to trace it, but instead of having a flashlight, you're just using the light from your computer. Now, I have a touch screen, so that made it a little more complicated, and if you're really going to do this, you should probably turn your touch sensor off. If your computer is a touch screen, it makes it much more difficult. But basically, the concept of what you're doing here is you're just sizing it on the computer the way you want it and putting it directly onto the paper and skipping the printing step. So you can either copy and paste it into Word and resize it in Word, or you can just resize the image on your screen. And I like to lay the glass over the paper so that way you can see how it's gonna fill the print, or you could trace it first and then kind of see how it fits that box, but that will really help you to get the sizing right. Now, this is beneficial because for the printing options, you do have to obviously print a few different times to be able to get the right size sometimes. So this just cuts that step out entirely. So it's another way to do it. Now, if your computer didn't go backwards, then basically you just open it as much as you can and you kind of flip it upside down so that the screen part is laying flat instead of the keyboard part is laying flat. And then you're just tracing it again. Now, I have the touchscreen on, so my lines didn't come out as clean as they normally would, but if you turn the touch sensor off, then it's super, super simple. Here's one more just for good measure. Now, I've just been doing a lot of line drawings. That's kind of what I'm into right now, and I think it looks really nice in your space, and I think it's really easy for you to do. But this is not a limited practice just to line drawings. This can literally be any picture that you want. Obviously, the more shading in the photo, the more difficult that it will be for you, but it's totally up to you. You can do whatever your heart desires and whatever you think your skill level is ready for. I think personally line drawings are really sophisticated and simple and minimalistic, and there's literally line drawings for everything. So I actually created a Pinterest board. I'll leave it down below if you guys want to check it out. All of the prints that I created are on that board as well. If you guys do this, then I'd love to see your versions of it. Please share on Instagram and tag me. I think they all came out so good and they're all free and I am in love with them. They are all around my room and I wake up to them every single day and I could not be happier. Leave in the comments which method you thought looked the easiest and which ones you try at home.
Alright guys, that is today's video. I hope that you learned something. I hope you do this too because it's super simple, super easy, and super affordable, and it's so fun to make it your own. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and hit subscribe down below to see more videos from me. And as always, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye guys!